FYF Sportsman, it's Lamont. Back with another video, back with Game 5 highlights. Lakers versus Denver Nuggets, man. This is, again, another big game. This is definitely a big game for the Los Angeles Lakers. You know, we just saw the Denver Nuggets come back from 2-3-1 deficits against the Utah Jazz and then against the Los Angeles Clippers. Los Angeles Lakers definitely didn't want to be another victim of that type of comeback. So, really looking forward to getting to these highlights. You guys know the results. The Lakers came out victorious, but we definitely going to break down this game. And then also break down what we kind of forecast for the NBA Finals with regards to the Los Angeles Lakers. Before we get started today, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to the video if you have not done so already. Make sure you hit that notification bell when we start going live. We start going live Game 1 of the NBA Finals. That's coming up really soon. Game 1 of the NBA Finals, 2 hours before every Finals game, we will be going live. You want to have that notification bell hit because once we go live, when we start our live debates, it's not just about debating. If you come with the strongest arguments, regardless of what we're talking about, if you come with the strongest facts, it's cash prizes that we give out when we debate, right? So we giving back to you guys. We're not just, obviously, there's a lot you guys can give to us. You guys watch our videos. You guys give us the engagement. You guys give us the donations. It's time for us to give back to you guys. So if you got anything that you want to contest me on, debate me on, you don't like the 90s videos, you can step in on those live debates. We can discuss it right then and there. But today we're talking about the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Denver Nuggets, Game 5. Straight, to the highlights. Not even gonna mess around with this game. And again, I like the flow of this game and the way Denver was able to compete, even with some guys that were battered and beat up. I know Jamal Murray was dealing with maybe I think a thigh or hip injury, so he wasn't as effective. But these guys were able to fight. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into these highlights, and we're gonna break it down as we go along. All right, we got these highlights here, man. This was a game right here where the Lakers started off strong. We see Dwight Howard with another starting the game off with a lob. The Lakers, for the most part, at the beginning of this game, were able to control the pace. AD getting to the rim. This was a constant in this game. AD was able to get to the rim. This team was able to attack early. And what we saw in this particular series right here was that the team that got out early and played the best was generally the team that ran. We saw the Lakers get down big in their loss to Denver a few games ago. And even though they made runs to come back, they just still weren't able to overcome it. I think that's because when you're playing a game every other day, your legs just aren't there. So to make those comebacks and then have to fight back from some big deficits, I think it really wears on you because of bubble basketball. LeBron James, man, definitely an excellent game today. I love how LeBron has constantly attacked the rim against this Denver team. And as we see that he gets his shot rejected right there. But again, he does not allow that to stop him from continuously attacking this Denver team at the rim. And we've seen LeBron James in the past. When teams continually foul him and make it hard for him to get to the rim, we've seen LeBron James resort to taking that mid-range or taking those long three-point shots, or settling for shots. This particular series, he continually attacked the rim, and he actually started to have success. The Lakers, and that's only due to the fact that some of these Lakers, Caruso, Danny Green, KCP, these guys are actually making shots. And when they can make shots and space the floor for LeBron, it's essentially impossible to guard LeBron. We see Dwight Howard with the block right there. AD, the Lakers in transition. This is going to be a problem for the Miami Heat. If the Miami Heat can make the finals, now looking at the way that series is going, it looks like the Heat will probably close that series out pretty soon and will be in the NBA Finals. And they're a team that runs zone. The number one way that you get a team out of zone or you get them out the zone is you basically run in transition. On every miss, you run. Don't allow them to set up the zone. You take away that particular weapon that they're using. And I know Danny Green had a big block right there. Danny Green's made some real key defensive plays in this particular series. Offensively, he's not played great at all, but he's doing all of the small stuff. Similar to Caruso, Danny Green does a lot of stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. And we have Jeremy Grant right here. This is the third game in a row with Jeremy Grant playing great. Jeremy Grant ended up finishing this game with 20 points, played a lot of minutes. Denver Nuggets, man, just not very deep. They have to rely on guys like Grant, guys like Porter to step in heavy minutes and probably more minutes than they would normally play if they were able to, have a more standard rotation. And we see Porter Jr. That's what I want to see more. I know he was met at the rim right there. That's something that he's going to learn. As he grows, he's going to understand that when you're going up against an athletic 7-footer, you're not going to be able to out-jump these guys. What you got to do is you got to go up into his body, create contact, and you got to be able to finish around guys and not over guys. Again, that's something that comes with time. That's Porter Jr. showing his youth. And Murray with a great attack. Murray's been probably the most consistent and constant piece that Denver's had. He's single-handedly kept them in a lot of these games with huge fourth-quarter performances. And even injured today, this man still played lights-out basketball. Grant is definitely surprising me. I mean, he's one of those guys that he came into this series. We didn't expect much of him offensively, but the last 3 games, he's given the Denver Nuggets some big offensive games, helping them make up for the fact that Millsap hasn't given them much, or Gary Harris on the offensive end. And this is a game right here. Lakers were up big. Denver fought back. Denver made it a game going early on into the fourth. And again, this is these transition buckets. I'm really curious to see how the Miami Heat or whatever team that the Lakers play in the finals are going to try to deal with the Lakers' ability to get out and transition and score. And when you're power forward or when you're small forward and LeBron James can take off on a break at any given time, it just makes your transition that much more lethal. And this fourth quarter all belonged to LeBron James. LeBron James simply took over the fourth quarter. Offensively, now we've seen him dominate Denver defensively last game by guarding Jamal Murray. This game right here, they needed to manufacture points in that fourth quarter. You had guys who were missing shots, and as you can see, he was able to step in, and then you see LeBron James there with a timely offensive rebound and a kick out. But towards the end of this game, LeBron James was able to take over and dominate scoring-wise to go ahead and put away this really, really resilient Denver Nugget team. I like how these guys, man, and this is what I appreciate about the Denver Nuggets, man. They fought to the end. They didn't give up. And you know what? These guys play. They exceeded expectations. I mean, if you're the Denver Nuggets, and I know you got to exit the bubble right now, but you could definitely walk out the bubble with your head high. And I only say that because, man, any team that's fought back from 2-3-1 deficits, you beat the title favorite in the Clippers. Not just beat them, but you came back from a 3-1 deficit there as well. I can't give you anything but respect on the way out the bubble. So I really appreciate what Mike Malone was able to do with this team. I know there's a lot of criticism towards Mike Malone and how he coached this team. For one, we have to look at the fact that this team was extremely undermanned. I mean, without Will Barton in that rotation, this is not the same team. It changes up a lot of their offensive strategy. They didn't have a lot of offensive firepower. They had to manufacture points out of Michael Porter Jr. They had to manufacture offense out of Jeremy Grant. They had to hope that guys like Paul Millsap and Gary Harris could give them those extra points. And with the roster that they had, with the expectations that we even had for them, these guys came in and played far above anybody's expectations. I think they just ran into the best team in the league. They not only ran into the best team in the league, they ran into the best player in the league. And then they ran into another top 5 player of this league in Anthony Davis. And I just think that's just a bit too much. When we look at this Laker team, I think a lot of people, we just don't give the Lakers enough credit for how much playoff and championships experience that they have. When we look at guys like Danny Green, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Rajon Rondo, Dwight Howard. These are not only good players. These are all highly experienced players who've made a lot of deep playoff runs. You know, Dwight Howard, when he was in Orlando, best center in the league at that time, had a lot of experience. LeBron James, we know what he's done in his 17-year career. We saw how Anthony Davis was able to lead New Orleans when he was down there into the playoffs. So he's had experience in the playoffs as well. So they got a lot of experience there. And I just think that we're not giving the Lakers enough credit for how strong that roster really is. You know, I think we fall in love with chalk and paper lineups. You know, when we look at the Clipper team, on paper it looks great. Chemistry-wise, it was terrible. Right now, you know, on paper, when we look at guys like Caruso, when we look at guys like KCP and Danny Green, it doesn't look perfect. It doesn't look great. But as a team, these guys have been able to come together, and they play well together. They're the best team in the NBA bubble right now. And right now, there's somebody who has to take them down. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and transition over to the stats. We're going to break down these stats for these games, see what we had there, and just give everybody their just due for these performances. All right, and we got our stats, man. We got our stats for this game, man. You know, again, we're looking at right now. We're just looking at the stats for the Denver Nuggets, man. This is a Denver Nugget team that, again, when you're going into the playoffs, man, you know, it's always best if you can have at least 6 reliable guys that you can go to. The reason why I say this Denver Nugget team overachieved is when we look at guys like Jeremy Grant, he's probably going to be a 7th or 8th man on any other team in the NBA. On this Denver team, he was thrust into the starting lineup by necessity. You know, we had guys like Porter Jr. He's just not ready. Coming off the back injury, hasn't had enough NBA in-game experience, never played a lick of playoff basketball, and I think that kind of was a shell shock for him to see the intensity of NBA playoff basketball, having to decipher NBA defenses on the go. He was playing more so at a high school level speed and not an NBA speed. Offensively, the man is great. Offensively, when he gets the ball, he can do a lot of great things, but you know, what comes with time in the NBA is understanding how to move without the ball, how to be effective within the offense when you don't have the ball, how to play defense, and you know, even if you struggle to stay in front of your man, how to continuously give that extra effort. And once he's able to figure those things out, he's going to be highly effective in the NBA. But right now we got Paul Millsap. Paul Millsap, solid game, 13 points. He was only 1-8 from the field. But he shot a lot of free throws, 10-11 from the free throw line. So we can't say that Denver wasn't getting fouled. I mean, if Paul Millsap goes to the free throw line 10 times, then the refs are giving you the foul call. So it was a terribly ref game. The refs called bad calls on both sides. So, I mean, 10 free throws, we really can't look at the free throw count and blame anything. Jamal Murray, another solid game. Now, this is one of the first games against the Lakers where he scored under 20 points. I mean, he was dealing with a thigh injury that he aggravated early on in this game. He just didn't look the same. He played a lot of minutes. Again, when you're playing every other day and you don't have time to recover from these knick-knack injuries, it starts to mount. 19 points for him on 7-17 shooting. We got Jeremy Grant, 20 points, 7-18 shooting. Porter Jr., only 10 points today. He pulled down 2 rebounds. You know, I wish I could have seen him do more on that particular front. No steals, no blocks. You know, again, I don't want to knock him for that stat line. Again, he's just a rookie, and not just a rookie. He's a rookie who's played only a handful of NBA level games, and most of those games are coming in the NBA bubble. I don't think we'll see the best of Michael Porter Jr. until next year. A lot of people wanted Mike Malone to thrust him into a 35-40 minute role, but at the end of the day, man, you cannot do that with a guy who's been out of basketball for essentially 2 years with a major back injury. He's coming back. You have to ease him back in. He has to get adjusted to NBA game, the speed of the NBA game, the flow of the NBA game. And there were a lot of moments, and you guys have seen it in my past videos, how this guy just wasn't ready. So we definitely appreciate what he can bring. But he's gonna have to clean up his game a little bit if we really want to see him excel in the NBA. Morris again, guys like Monty Morris, For them to compete, he has to score 15 to 17 points. He has to. And when he's not scoring 15 to 17 points, this team is just going to struggle. They're going to struggle to find offense. Plumlee, again, he's one of those guys that generally you don't want to have to play him over 10 minutes. He had to play 18 minutes today. Again, this is a team that they're just getting fatigued. They're not very deep. And they tend to get in foul trouble now, whether that's due to making bad calls. It's just something that you really have to look at. When you look at Gary Harris with 4 fouls, Jeremy Grant with 4 fouls, Jokic with 5 fouls again, dealing with foul trouble again. And then even with Murray and Millsap both with 3 fouls. This is a team that does reach a lot, but that happens when your legs start to go and when you start getting tired, you're getting fatigued. They played a lot of NBA games. Again, look at their series. They've played a lot of games. They've had to come back from 2-3-1 deficits. At the end of the day, I just think, regardless of how young your team is, that's just simply going to catch up with you. And I think it caught up with the Denver Nuggets today. We got Jokic. And Jokic is just I would say an average game, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. And again, the Lakers did a great job of taking Jokic's strongest weapon away. Jokic's strongest weapon was being able to pass the ball and facilitate. When Jokic was most effective against the Clippers, it wasn't really the scoring, it was his ability to get double-digit assists. Being able to pick apart that D, get guys like Gary Harris and Jeremy Grant going with easy layups, that just made that team impossible to guard. The Lakers did a really good job of playing sound defense. Again, it's just about giving them credit. We're going to go over to the Lakers stats. Anthony Davis was a minus 1 on the day. So again, I got to look into why he was a minus 1 because he only had 1 turnover, but he did have 27 points. For whatever reason, the last couple games he's struggling to rebound the ball. 5 rebounds today, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. Solid game for Anthony Davis. We expect those numbers from AD. I mean, you can almost book him for 25 to 30 points in these NBA playoffs. He's just a guy that's a unicorn. You're not going to be able to guard him with anybody. He's a 7-footer with guard skills, with the speed of a small forward, with the athleticism of, any of the best athletes in the NBA. Crazy wingspan. He's just a guy that you're just not going to be able to guard. So I appreciate him for not just putting up great numbers. He's been dominant at times in this series. LeBron James, this is probably the best game he's had of the playoffs. Best performance, best individual performance, and they needed it. Anthony Davis, we know he was hobbled with that ankle injury. LeBron James, 38 points today. And not just 38 points, the man came up with 16 rebounds and 10 assists, so he had a monster triple-double today to end this. And, again, LeBron James he's a different beast. When LeBron James is down 3-1 going into this particular series, when LeBron James has been up 3-1 and then he's been 14-0. So I didn't expect the Denver Nuggets to break that streak. The team just did not have enough star power to beat this Laker team. We got Danny Green. Danny Green did decent today, 11 points today. Now, I would want him to see to do more on the rebounding end. 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, and he had 2 timely blocks. He had some big-time defensive plays in that fourth quarter that really helped stifle the Denver Nuggets runs. Caruso, he's another one of those glue guys. A lot of what Caruso does doesn't show on the stat sheet. He had 11 points today, 4 assists, 2 rebounds. Again, Caruso's just one of those guys where he helps make this team go. He doesn't need the ball to be effective. Caruso does all of those small things, the intangibles that coaches love to see. A lot of people are wondering, why is he getting playing time over JR? Why is he getting playing time over Waiters? The reason's why, because Caruso's willing to do a lot of the things that these other vets and a lot of these other guys aren't willing to do. He's willing to put his body on the line. We see this guy jumping out of bounds, diving for loose ball. We see him getting up under guys, getting hands on passes, creating turnovers. And whenever you're able to do that, you're always gonna have minutes in the NBA game. We got Kyle Kuzma, only 8 points today. We gotta find a way. The Lakers, especially, the Lakers are gonna really have to find a way to get this guy integrated into this offense going into this season. We thought that Kuzma would be the 3rd primary scorer on this team, and that's what the Lakers have struggled to find, even in the playoffs. That's probably been the only downfall to this team. Who is that consistent 3rd go-to guy? Who's that consistent 3rd go-to scorer that you can rely on? Especially now We know that AD has tweaked his ankle. We don't know if he's going to be 100% going into Game 1 of the NBA Finals. They really need to identify who can be that third go-to scorer. Is it going to be KCP? Is it going to be, can it be Caruso? Not consistently, I don't think so. It would have to be Kyle Kuzma. And this guy, he's coming in off the bench, a little bit not focused, playing a little bit wild. Looks like he's forcing it. So again, hopefully that can change Game 1 of the NBA Finals. So we also got Caldwell Pope. Again, underwhelming performance today, only 2 points in 26 minutes. But again, Caldwell Pope throughout this whole playoffs, I think we don't give guys like Caruso and Caldwell Pope enough credit for what they do on the defensive end of the court. They sacrifice their numbers. Understand that you got two of the greatest offensive talents on your team in LeBron James and AD, and they just go out there and do all the dirty work on the defensive end. So I just want to give those two guys their credit, because I think we spend too much time talking about these other teams and how these other teams can overcome the Lakers, as opposed to just giving the Lakers credit for having a great playoff run. And we're talking about 3 series against 3 very good teams in the NBA with star power. I mean, we're looking at Damian Lillard and the Blazers. Everybody thought that they would give the Los Angeles Lakers problems. The Lakers took them out in 5. Same thing with the Houston Rockets and James Harden and Russell Westbrook, 2 former MVPs of this league. They were able to definitely handle those 2 guys, and I know those 2 guys kind of shot themselves in the foot with their erratic play. But at the end of the day, that was one of the most potent offenses in the NBA, and that Laker defense was able to stifle the Rockets. And then we have the Denver Nuggets, the hottest team in the NBA coming into this series, coming back from 2 3-1 deficits. Again, this was a team that could give a lot of other teams in the NBA extreme matchup problems. We had touted the Clipper defense as being the best defense in the league. They shredded that defense apart. And the Lakers were able to hone in, lock in on this team, identify what they do best, and take their best options away time and time again, and it showed with the results. Lakers come out with the win today. Lakers will be advancing to the NBA Finals in this particular matchup right here. But I want you guys, definitely want you guys to let me know what you think about this particular series, man. Do you guys really think... do you guys really think that there was more the Denver Nuggets could have done to potentially win this series or be more competitive? I honestly, again, if I'm just being honest about this particular series, the Denver Nuggets were outmanned. They were extremely outmanned, and they were playing a 1 seed. We expect our number 1 seeds in the NBA to advance. And at the end of the day, this Denver team wasn't supposed to be here. They weren't supposed to be here to get this far, and not just get this far, but when they got here to the Western Conference Finals, they competed. They competed every game. They made great runs to keep these games competitive in the 4th quarter. They gave us a great show. At the end of the day, when you're talking about playoff basketball, what you have to look at the experience of the guys. I think that's one of the reasons why Frank Vogel put Dwight Howard into the starting lineup. It's that playoff. He's been playoff tested. That type of experience is invaluable when you go into the playoffs. And I don't want to say that Mike Malone got out-coached. I mean, he had a limited roster. He's really dealing with the struggle of what do I do with Michael Porter Jr. He's struggling so much defensively. It's so bad that he can't. Michael Porter Jr. is not doing enough on the offensive end to make up for what he's doing. It's just creating big holes. And again, I don't want to harp on that and pick on him too much. But again, a lot of people are going to place blame on Mike Malone, or a lot of people are going to place this series loss on Michael Porter Jr. At the end of the day, we saw this Denver team take another step. The same way we saw the Phoenix Suns take another step by going 8-0 in the NBA bubble. It just shows promise for next year. And so what I do is I like to look at the positives when I'm looking at these teams. A lot of people are trying to say Mike Malone should get fired. I'm going to pump the brakes on that right there. I can tell you guys with absolute certainty that the chances of Mike Malone getting fired are slim to none. He did a great job with this team. And again, when you're dealing with a team, obviously he had the situation with Michael Porter Jr., where Porter Jr. called him out about maybe spreading the ball a little bit more on offense. But at the end of the day, Michael Porter Jr. is not just a rookie in this league. He's a rookie in this league who hasn't played a full season of NBA basketball. All right, so to be honest about that particular issue, Michael Porter Jr. is as a rookie who hasn't really had a lot of NBA in-game experience, it's probably not your place to step in and say something like that. Mike Malone and his coaching style got you here. Mike Malone and his coaching style got you past the Utah Jazz. It got you past the LA Clippers. And now against the Lakers, you just have to trust the process. The main thing what players in the NBA have to do today is they have to look in the mirror. And if Michael Porter Jr. looks in the mirror, he'll be able to tell himself that I did not earn my playing time because my defense was just that bad. That's what you have to. That's what you just have to own as an NBA player to get better. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of promise there. You have PJ Dozier who showed great flashes in the few minutes that he got in his Western Conference Finals. I wish we could have saw Keita Bates-Diop at Ohio State. This guy can score the basketball. And I don't know why they didn't play him at all. I mean, give him a look. Also on that Denver bench, they had Troy Daniels. He's an experienced vet in this league. And I know he's not the greatest player. I know he's not the most athletic. But when you have playoff experience on your bench, I'm just surprised that Mike Malone didn't play him. So that's something I have to criticize Mike Malone for. I don't think it's something that you get fired over, but we have to speak on it. Obviously, Bol was not ready to play. He's not going to be ready until next year. We need to see him in the summer league or maybe some preseason games. We got to get these guys ready by getting NBA experience under their belt. But again, we want to, obviously as Denver's exiting the NBA bubble, this is one of the few teams that you can definitely take your hat off to because these guys put on a show in the NBA bubble. In circumstances where a lot of teams came to this bubble, they didn't play hard, they didn't show up. This Denver Nugget team came into this situation with so many unknowns. Jokic had COVID-19. Will Barton was out for this. They had every reason to give up on this season, and they continue to fight. So definitely want to give a big round of applause to Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, and the Denver Nuggets for a really strong performance in this NBA playoffs in the bubble. But the Lakers, as they advance on, it's going to be much easier to talk on this particular matchup when we know who they're going to be playing. The Celtics pose a certain amount of problems. Miami Heat pose a certain amount of problems. I don't think either team is strong enough to beat the Lakers in 7 games. I think the Celtics, they do have the star power to kind of hang around or maybe steal 1 or 2 games. But again, they're just not very deep at all. And with the fact that the Lakers like to get out in transition so much, they're going to run into the same problems that Denver did with guys getting tired. Who to bring off that bench? How do we guard AD and LeBron in these mismatches? And then if these Lakers shooters are making shots, how can we sustain those big-time runs that we know the Lakers can make? And the same thing with the Heat. The Heat are going to have to make decisions. Are we going to stay in this zone? I mean, the combination of the Lakers being the second best transition team in the NBA with the combination of the Miami Heat in zone, that's not a good mix. That's not going to favor the Miami Heat, especially if they're not able to make shots consistently. So I'm really curious to see how Eric Spoelstra sets the tone if that team can make the finals. Brad Stevens is going to have a whole host of matchup problems. When they play the if they can make it to the finals to play the Lakers. But we'll just have to wait and see. Right now, I'm looking forward to seeing the next game between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. We expect Miami to close it out, but I mean, anything can happen from what we've seen. Anything can happen in this series. So I'm not going to count Boston out, especially when they're led by one of the great young minds of the game in Brad Stevens. But hope you guys enjoyed this video, man. Hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown of the game. And again, I had to make this review just a little bit longer because I definitely wanted to show my appreciation to this Los Angeles Laker team for how they've been playing. I had my doubts about them going into the bubble. A lot of us had our doubts about this team going into the bubble. They look lethargic at times. They took some unnecessary losses. Same with the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat came into the NBA playoffs in this bubble going 3-5. And the Lakers I think they had a similar record, not winning many of those games, struggling against bad opponents. And both of these teams, it's crazy how both of these teams are surprising us in play because they've been the two most dominant teams in the playoffs. But again, you guys, let me know what you think in the comments. Hit us up on Twitter, Instagram. If you have any questions, if you have anything you want us to, to speak about on the show, hit us up and let us know. But we got a lot of content coming for you. We got a new host of the show coming. We got a PS5 pre-order giveaway drawing coming. And again, for you guys that stuck around in this video today and you watched this video to the end, obviously you know what we got. We got our PlayStation 5 giveaway information. All right. And you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go with the mascot of the show. We got the mascot of the show. If you guys know his name. Now, I'm not gonna say the name, but I've said we have a mascot of the show. All right. If you guys have been watching our videos and you know who this guy is, all right, he's been on the show. He stands here, he doesn't say nothing. All right, he's asleep right now because it's late. Right? So, but we're not gonna say his name. We're not gonna say his name. But if you know his name and you're a true FYF fan and you put it in the comments of this video, all right, I'm gonna do something I haven't done yet. The first person to put our mascot's name in the comments. All right, the first person to put our mascot's name in the comments, you're gonna get a $50 Amazon gift card, and you're gonna get 10 entries into our PlayStation giveaway drawing. Again, 10 entries in this drawing is gonna be a lot because I'm gonna tell you right now, we don't even have 100 entries in the bowl yet. If you can get 10 entries into this drawing, that's over 10% of your name being in that bowl. It's going to really increase your chances of winning that PlayStation 5 pre-order. Go do your research, man. You know our shirts, our merchandise, all right? For research purposes only. You guys got to be students of the game. If you've been following us, if you've seen who the mascot is, if you've seen him on our shows, if you know his name, put his name in the comments of the video. The first person to do it is going to get 10 entries into the bowl and a $50 Amazon gift card. Now, if you're not first, if somebody beats you to the punch, you'll just get 5 entries. So again, first person to enter his name, 10 entries, $50 Amazon gift card immediately. And then everybody else, you'll get 5 entries into the bowl. Hopefully you want to be the first on this one. All right, you don't want to be the one that's just copying what everybody's putting in the comments. All right, you want to be the first on this one because again, there's more incentive. But that's just our appreciation for you guys. Again, this is our appreciation for you guys showing up, checking out the videos, helping us do numbers here on YouTube, and we just giving back to you guys. But it's been FYF Sports, man. Another great game highlight video. We'll be back with more news later. But FYF Sports.